guys are having an amazing, marvelous, and magnificent day or night. And if not, I hope your day or night gets better. My name is Tati V, and if you're a true crime lover like me, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Before we get into today's video, I just want to share with you all two things. First, I want to shout out my first comment winner, Wally73. Shout out to you. So thank you so much for being the first comment winner. And if any of you guys would like to be the first comment winner, just comment down below being the first one, and you can be shouted out in my future video. Second thing I wanted to share is I do have a true crime channel. I do have a true crime podcast on Spotify. It's called Talk True Crime to Me. It'll be linked down below if you want to check it out. It's not in a whisper format, but it is still soothing in my opinion. So today's video, as you can see by the title, we're going to be whispering about the Glamour girl slayer that took place in the late 50s. So without further ado, sit back, relax, grab a snack, some water, some wine, anything that warms your heart, and enjoy some crime time. Warning, this video may contain details of graphic content. This channel is for mature audiences only. Some viewers might find this disturbing. Harvey Murray Glatman was born on December 10th, 1927 in Bronx, New York City. As a young boy, him and his family relocated to Denver, Colorado. Harvey showed early signs of malice and anti-socialism. At 12 years old, Harvey would often put a rope around his neck, running it through the bathtub drain and pulling it tight. This is a sign of what's called erotic asphyxiation, which is the attempt to restrict oxygen to the brain to gain some type of sexual arousal. Harvey's mother took him to the doctors, and the doctors stated Harvey would, quote, grow out of it, end quote. As a teenager, Harvey began getting in and out of trouble with the law. He started off by breaking into women apartments, stealing their underwear and lingerie. At one point, he stole a woman's weapon. Eventually, stealing women's undergarments turned into him stalking and raping them. In August of 1945, 17-year-old Harvey was convicted of kidnapping and R-ing a woman. He was sentenced to 5 to 10 years in Elmira Reformatory, which is now Elmira Correctional Facility. While in prison, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. In 1948, he was released on parole. In 1957, Harvey moved to Los Angeles, California. He began working as a TV repairman. Los Angeles would be the start of him creating a fake modeling agency to recruit potential victims. He disguised himself as a photographer for a bulb modeling agency and started reaching out to young up-and-coming actresses and models. His first victim was 19-year-old Judy Ann Dull. In June of 1957, Judy Ann had just turned 19 years old. She had a 14-month-old daughter named Susan, and she was in the process of divorcing Susan's dad, which was going to be her soon-to-be ex-husband, 22-year-old Robert Dull. During this time, Judy was a pinup model, which at times she would photograph nude. Robert didn't agree with that, so he tried to get custody of their 14-month-old daughter, Susan. Judy lived at the Il Mirador Apartments in West Hollywood with her two roommates who were also pinup models. Judy $20 an hour for a 2-hour shoot, which was a lot of money back then. Today, that would be about $200 an hour. With this nasty custody battle and divorce, I could only imagine the court fees Judy would have had to come up with, so she could not pass up on this gig. Johnny Glenn showed up to their apartment unannounced looking for Judy. He asked her if she wouldn't mind posing at his studio because the lighting was better. Johnny also encouraged her to wear a tight skirt and a sweater. Judy agreed to go to his studio, but under one circumstance. He had to jot his number down so our roommates could get in contact with her if need be. When Harvey and Judy walked out of her apartment together, that would be the last time she was seen alive. Instead of driving Judy to his studio, he drove her to his apartment. Once they got inside, he explained to her that his photographs had stories behind them, and this particular story was about bondage. He stated that he had to tie her up, which she consented. Harvey placed a band on her wrist and a band to her ankles. He proceeded to take pictures of her, inappropriately touching her. You guys, this man lost his virginity by raping her. He drove her out to a location in the Mojave Desert where he strangled her to death. That same day, Judy had a meeting with her husband, Robert Dull, regarding their daughter, but she never showed. That telephone number that Harvey left was a number to a random payphone in a parking garage. The next day after her disappearance, there were newspaper articles released stating, quote, "Missing a model still sought," end quote. Judy Ann's remains were found 4 months later. In December of 1957, she was dumped in a shallow sandy ditch 120 miles from her apartment. Shirley Ann Bridgeford was 24 years old. She was a recent divorcee and had 2 sons. On March 7th, 1958, Shirley used the popular dating service called the Lonely Hearts Club in Los Angeles in hopes of looking for her special someone. When Harvey, who was going by the alias name George Williams, approached Shirley, he asked her on a date. She agreed. He told Shirley they were going square dancing and out to dinner. I'm assuming the following day, Harvey, aka George, showed up to Shirley's house at 7:45 p.m. He was greeted by several of Shirley's family members. Shirley and Harvey left out of her apartment. This would be the last time she was seen alive. As they were driving to go on their date, Harvey complained that he was experiencing a headache and asked Shirley if they could take a drive in the country instead. Shirley agreed. In a confession, Harvey will later say he kept thinking about her 2 children, and he told himself that Shirley was a different type than Judy Dull, his first victim. But still, his urge to kill overpowered any second thought he had, and he knew he had to follow through with his plan. They parked in a deserted area. He tied her up, took many pictures of her. Afterwards, he killed her. This time, he didn't bury his second victim, just as he did his first one. He thought no one would ever find Shirley, based on how secluded the area was. 4 months after the discovery of Shirley, Harvey kidnapped 24-year-old Ruth Rita Mercado. Ruth was a model and once again, Harvey posed as a photographer under an alias name. When he went to go pick Ruth up, she was too ill to go out. He left and returned at nighttime. When he drove by, he saw that there wasn't any lights on in her apartment. He left and went to a nearby bar. Once he left the bar, he drove past Ruth's apartment and noticed a light was on, so he knocked on her door. Somehow he was able to convince her to allow him inside, where he repeatedly raped her. He lured her to the Anza Desert State Park, where he took pictures and killed her. Her body was found on October 31st, 1958. Harvey confessed later on, saying, quote, "She was one I really liked, so I told her we were going out to a deserted spot where we wouldn't be bothered while I took more pictures. We drove out to the district and spent most of the day out on the desert. I took a lot more pictures and tried to figure out how to keep from killing her, but I couldn't come up with any answer. So I got out the rope and did it the same way I did the others. I piled some brush and debris on her body and left her there," end quote. On October 27th, 1958, Harvey's almost fourth victim, 22-year-old Lorraine Marie Vigil, was a first-time model and was contacted by Harvey, who, I'm assuming, went under an alias name. She agreed to do a photo shoot. Once Harvey lured Ruth to a reserved area, he attempted to tie her up, but not without Ruth putting up a fight. A police officer spotted Harvey and Ruth fighting over a weapon, and he was quickly arrested. Lorraine died at 65 years old on April 2nd, 2002. Police arrested 31-year-old Harvey Glatman. He confessed in detail what he had done to those beautiful women. He stated after driving them to the desert, he would make them pose for pictures, but to make them kneel down, a weapon was always pointed towards them. He would tie a 5-foot piece of rope around their neck. He stood there and kept pulling until they stopped struggling. He stated he buried Judy in a shallow grave, but he didn't bury Shirley because he thought no one would find her. He explained to the cops that each of the women endured in several hours of torture before losing their lives. He was in possession of hundreds of photos of the women before and after their deaths. The cops found Ruth's slip when they searched his apartment. Eventually, Harvey led police to the bodies of his victims. Harvey's trial began in December of 1958. He pleaded guilty by reason of insanity. He was sentenced to death for the murders of Shirley and Ruth. He stayed on death row from December of 1958 until he was executed on September 18th, 1959. 31-year-old Harvey was executed in the gas chamber at San Quentin State Prison in Marin County, California. His remains was buried in the San Quentin Cemetery. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in my next video.